Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right. Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great program for you today. As usual, I only have about 2 videos for you today, but we got a lot to talk about. Welcome aboard, welcome aboard, welcome aboard. Who do we have in the house? Whoa, a lot of stuff, Radnin. We've got, who started us out today? Patrick Magner out of Houston, Texas. Meow is what he says. Michael Rudnin out of Brooklyn, New York is in the house. Paul Fleming out of Powder Springs, Georgia is in the house. We also have what we have Joanna de Los Angeles, California, Harry Denson from Missouri City, Texas, Eric Hayes from Kingwood, Atascocita, and Jacqueline Campisi from Katy, Texas. Welcome aboard. La Profesora is in the house. The professor is in the house. On the chat, which we get started late, missed the first few dozens, but we got Susan E. Kinder, I don't know which one. Welcome aboard. Do You Lie says, good afternoon out there, wherever you reign. Kathy Adams, welcome aboard. E2247 is in the house. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. Tony in Kingwood. How you doing, Tony? Great to have you here. Love to have you here. All right, folks, let's get busy. Michael said, main computer monitor died. I'm on my old backup laptop. It can only barely do live stream video. Replacement monitor delivery Thursday. Crossing those fingers because we miss all that activity we normally get out of you, Michael. But that's all right. We still love you. Dennis Vivian, welcome aboard. And Deborah Kwam, welcome aboard. Let's see if I got anybody else in our rest of our chat. Okay, let's start with Radnan. He says, fine bowl. Here's the Medicaid stock for Congress members suspiciously dumped before funding cuts. Here's the Medicaid stock for Congress members suspiciously dumped before funding cuts. 4 congressmen, 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, sold their shares before the vote. Rob Brentham, Republican of Pennsylvania, Jefferson Shreve, Republican of Indiana, Jill Cisneros, Democrat of California, and Rocana, Democrat of California, all need an investigation for blatant conflict of interest and corruption. Stocks and other such incentives should be put into a blind trust for the duration of their terms. I agree. Insider trading should be grounds for impeachment, and I agree with that as well. All right. Patrick says it's a big day for Trump. It's a big day for Trump. Let me see. In what regards, Patrick? In what regards? Let me know what you mean. Barbara Edie, welcome aboard. Let's see what else we got here. Daily Beast from Michael Rudnin. Let's see. John Aguilar. Hello. How can I help you? Welcome to Politics Done Right.
Yeah, this is John Aguilar in Cyprus.
Hola, ¿cómo está mi hermano?
I'd like to say. How you doing? I normally call it 6, but I'm calling it 3 today.
You're confusing me, John. You're confusing me. You're normally a 6 o'clock caller on the air, but you're calling on our YouTube show or network show or Substack show. Actually, we're all on at the.
I'm trying to reach out wherever I can. I have things to say that I see the media screwing up.
Let me hear it.
And I want to see somebody talk about how this administration and these Nazis are they're trying to bring back segregation through the voucher program. And it's appalling to me that people are allowing it. And you can see it's shaping up now. You can see where the people that are getting their school paid for are people who already have money and already have their kids in school and in a private school. And the reason they have their kids in a private school, and I'm not going to try to be gross about here, but they just don't want their kids going to school with the likes of us who are different color. And that's the basis of it.
Let me tell you something. I don't know if I don't remember if I did this program on air at KPFT or I did it here at Just the Politics Done Right. But here is the deal. I actually spoke about that when I did a research. You remember I called up and told you guys I was doing the research on the bill, and the way the bill is written, a lot of the things inside of that bill, they don't quite come out and say we are supporting segregation in that form, right? They do it differently.
Yes,
They're supporting Christian schools. And here is it. I was, while you were talking, I was looking up to see what I spoke about then. And the part of the bill that does that is the part of the bill that says capital gains. In other words, if I have a stock, I can give that stock to a thing called an SGO, a scholarship granting organization. All of you listening to me on Substack and everywhere else, I need you to listen to this in detail. Hold on a second. I got another call in. Let me go ahead and add that to our thing. Hey, John, John number 2. Hold on a second. Yeah. Let me finish with John here. But stay on the line. Stay on the line. Here it goes. And I want everybody to hear. I want everybody to hear this. There are these things called scholarship granting organizations, SGOs. What was written in the bill is that SGOs can donate their stocks, appreciated stocks. So let's say you bought a stock for $100. It appreciated to $1,000. You have 100 of them, $100,000. You can give all of that stock to that SGO, that school scholarship program. And when you give it to that program, the government gives you a tax credit for that. Let me hold it back. The tax credit is the total amount of that stock plus its appreciated value. They give it all back to you. So you gave it to the school and the government gives it back to you. Not everybody understands or learned about this, but that's what happens. And then you can either repurchase that stock or just hold on to that money tax free. Now it gets even worse. That SGO could potentially give your kid a scholarship to go to that private school, which means you ultimately get a private school, your kid out of the public school where there are a lot of you know whom, and they can then go to that school and for free. The bill is a boondoggle. It is terrible. Aguilar, John, I think is that good enough for you to show what you wanted to talk about?
Yes, sir, it is. Yes, sir, because I think the mainstream media is failing us. And like I said, I'm reaching out everywhere that I can say, hey, look at this. You have to jump up and down and wave your hands. I don't know what it takes. I don't know what it takes.
Well, look, we're talking.
I don't have any kids in school anymore.
John, we're talking about it. We're talking about it, and not only that,
yes,
thank you for bringing it up so that we can put it out there again, because we covered this about last week sometime, but it's never too much to cover it. If you notice, that's what Trump does. He repeats the message over and over again. All right, let me go to the other John. Talk to me.
Thank you for the time.
Thank you, John. Okay, John numero dos, talk to me.
Yeah, I don't mean to change the subject, but I find it really disturbing that ICE is now picking up people who are citizens. They're getting pulled in and minding their own business, and yet they have the onus is to prove to them that that you're a citizen, and yet they still take you in, and your family doesn't know where you are. You don't have the right to call anybody. It's just outrageous. There was a case in Phoenix, Arizona, where somebody was out gardening in their front yard, and that happened to them. So, Pastor Martin Niemöller, who was a victim of the Nazis, said that first they came for the communists, then they came for the Jews, and then it goes on the trade unionists, and then he ends with, then they came for me. And by that time, no one was left to speak up. So, people think that it's really amusing that that ICE is coming in, and mind you, if you overstay a visa, it's a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. And, they are just so aggressively going after people who look like they would be, an immigrant, which i.e. means black and brown people. And, I find that kind of frightening, to tell you the truth. And, this happens, it just becomes part of the backdrop of our lives.
I was trying to get to this. Let me just interrupt you a second, because on TV today, I can't remember the name of the congressperson, and it's a California congressman, and I'm looking it up and I can't find it right now, which one it was. But he came on TV and he said it is time for the state government, the state police officers to do something important. And that is to arrest these people who are doing exactly that for kidnapping. If they see them them being violent with people on the streets, arrest them.
Yep.
Okay, because it's illegal.
Yeah, and I wanted to add, there was another case where a woman where they had the wrong address,
right,
and they burst through the door. They didn't have a proper warrant. They didn't even wait for her to open the door. And, she's screaming at them, you have the wrong person. And she's trying to desperately, because it was caught on video cam, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know I think it was the police, maybe. That was another issue, but still, we're becoming a police state. This is just wrong.
Look, we're going to take care of that. John, I need to get to some of our videos and stuff, but look, I appreciate your call. And yes, we're going to keep that in the forefront as well. All right, my brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling. All right, folks. Before I go to the video, let me just make sure that I have it. Howdy. Welcome, Edie. Laurie Sloan. Quit goofing around. MC Steve Quick. Thank you for being here. All right. Now, let's continue here. Harry says, good afternoon, El Profesor Activista Egberto Willies. Harry Denson here. Welcome aboard. We also have, I want to scroll down and get folks before I go to the video. Carl Cox says MAGA is code for. Okay, Carl, I won't repeat that, but I hear you. Lee the Bearcat says, Michael, how many people are receiving Medicaid or Medicare that should not be were? Again, you can find that answer anywhere. In fact, maybe I should find that answer to tell you what the truth is, but you've been lied to. There are not a lot of people on Medicaid taking advantage of it. It's illegal. It is illegal. And the only people that would be able to take advantage of it is somebody with a false card or whatever. And guess what most undocumented people want? They don't want anybody to know about them. It's so silly. It is so silly for MAGA and the others to believe when their Führer or when the people that are indoctrinating them tell them that there are all these illegals on Medicare. There are all these illegals that want to vote. All these undocumented workers don't want to be found. They're not going to take unnecessary risks to be found. Common sense. And I know you have common sense, guys. Come on now. That stuff is you getting screwed by your own people. Your Führer is screwing you. Yvette Avery Herod, welcome, sis. How you doing, beautiful? I hope. How's your campaign going, Yvette? Keep us posted. We want to know how you're doing. Let's see what else we've got here. Patrick says we absolutely a police state now. Thank you, Patrick, and I agree. Now we got to find a way to get around that. General local police can't arrest ICE for violations. If the ICE person has no markings on them, how do we know it's ICE? If we see a masked person attacking a woman or whatever, we should arrest them and then let them prove who they are. Go ahead and take pictures of them. Put out their pictures nationally. I tell you what, and for any ICE agent out there that has been harassing people and that has been putting people down, number one, you should be ashamed of yourself. And to put it as nice as I can, I hope you get what it's due. You don't have to be an ICE agent. You do not have to be an ICE agent. You are being used. And the hurtful part about it is recently I've been seeing a whole lot of Latino ICE agents. Shame. Shame. And shame. All right. I want to start with the river. This morning, I got a call from a woman on the program. Her name was, I think, Myra. I can't remember her name, but she called the show this morning, and she had an exception with me where she believed that it wasn't time to assign blame to what occurred on the Guadalupe River. And then at the same time, it was clear that she was trying to protect the Republicans by saying, flash floods are a common thing here in Texas, and it happens. Flash floods happen. And she's right. Flash floods happen, right? It does happen. And especially in the Guadalupe Valley, it is made of limestone with a slight veneer of mud or dirt, but it's mostly limestone, which means it doesn't absorb water as fast as regular standard mud. Yes, that's true. But here's what's different. If you know your areas are susceptible to flash floods, and you've had flash floods before that killed people, don't you mitigate that with new technology that we have today? Of course you do. And are there technologies that we could use? Of course they are. Kansas uses technology for when tornadoes are coming. All right. Now, there are all kinds of siren technologies, automatic flow control that will activate these things, whether it's coming in or not. So, as you will see shortly, people thought about that for the Guadalupe. It just was denied. It is time now that we definitely assign blame, now that everybody's eyes are on it. It is essential that we assign blame, and the blame goes directly to the evilness of the Republican legislature led by Dan Patrick and Greg Abbott. It is essential because it is killing people, just like it almost killed a woman who attempted to get her ectopic pregnancy ended because of these evil beings. Yes, just like a woman, a Texan, a beautiful young lady here in Texas almost lost her ability to have more kids because these men decided to decide what a woman can do with her body. These things have consequences, and we must assign blame while people are listening and watching so that we will ensure they are not elected again. So to my friend who called early in the morning, I'm sorry that I had to interrupt you, but you called about 2 minutes before the show ended. And I needed to make sure that we didn't end it with a defense of these evil beings. I needed to ensure that by the end of that program, those that were listening didn't leave with the plausibility that we shouldn't blame Dan Patrick and Greg Abbott and the Republican legislature. It is imperative that we assign blame for Guadalupe on Donald Trump and cut in the weather services, even though they say, oh, well, there were 5 people in the weather service. Yes, but they weren't the 5 competent people in the weather service. He had already quit. The hydrologist has already quit. He could say, well, we had X amount of saturation of water, and because of that saturation of water, we know that the flood will be exacerbated by that. We need to assign blame. Jacqueline Campisi said, regarding the flood, when a problem occurs, we must take time to re-examine the situation, identify the root cause, and implement changes to ensure it doesn't happen again. Jacqueline, that's why I say teachers are the most important segment of our population when it comes to profession. You're absolutely right, sis. You're absolutely right. Just like we haven't done anything for gun violence, all the gun violence that we have in the cities are a direct result of Republican orthodoxy and the misinterpretation of the Second Amendment. All of it. All of it. Okay, according to Rodney now from the Augusta Press, did the Doge layoffs at the National Weather Service just kill a bunch of people? Yes. Officials are saying that weren't prepared because the National Weather Service got the forecast wrong. Wonder if Donald Trump and Elon Musk laying off 600 national weather staffers earlier the New York Times warned that the agency was on the verge of offering degraded forecasting services because it was facing severe shortages of meteorologists. In May, 5 past directors of the National Weather Service issued a letter warning that Trump's cuts leave the nation's official weather forecasting entity at significant deficits. Just as we head into the hurricane prediction season, our worst nightmare is the weather forecast offices will be so understaffed that there will be needless loss of life. The answer to the question is yes. This is how the flood can turn deadly. And let me tell you, folks, it's important because while they are going to say, well, there are 5 people of staff in there, but the most respected person, the hydrologist, had already taken his early retirement. Don't buy the crap that they're going to try to sell now, right? We're in hurricane season, and I gave you the story about the ship channel yesterday. What happens when we get a direct hit in Houston? It affects the entire country, but we don't know how to deal with it because Donald Trump has left us blind. A lot of the data coming from the satellites that a lot of private companies could have seen, or educational research places could have seen, after Monday, they can no longer see it. Okay? Remember that. Remember that. All right. Let's go to the first video. I want to play that the mayor of Kerrville. He's a Republican, but you can see that he's a good guy, a guy that has feelings, a humane person. I want you to hear this, and then we'll take it on the other side. The mayor of Kerrville, Mayor Joe Herring, he's been taking a lot of flack from the news media, but I actually think the mayor is a good guy. And he pointed out something. He said, I understand that we, a time before, requested a siren system, protection system for the river, and it was denied by the state. And you know what? It doesn't surprise me at all. We have the leadership in this state, the Republican right-wing leadership in the state by Greg Abbott and Dan Patrick. These guys would spend a whole lot of time on a false immigration emergency. They'll spend the time on the bathroom bill, somehow preventing trans from being in the bathroom. They'll spend a lot of time on trans issues. They would spend a lot of time on trying to deny women abortion. They spend their time on a lot of junk. But at the same time, when it comes to things that really save people's lives, like an alarm system for a river, like investing in people's education so that we won't have a lot of uneducated kids on the streets, like educate, like invest in. The governor just denied reception of a grant to feed the hungry in this state. Recently, he did that. He denied federal money to feed Houstonians, to feed Texans. They don't care about that. They do not care about people. They do not care about your health care. They refuse to take the Medicaid expansion to the Affordable Care Act that would ensure thousands and stop the thousands of deaths every year in this state. But when it comes to bathroom bills, when it comes to putting the 10 Commandments in school, those are important issues. But when it comes to doing things that save lives, that makes people healthy, that protect the rights of women, they're nowhere to be found. That save lives, that could have saved the lives of those over 100 people that died on the Guadalupe River. They couldn't do that. They must pay for this. I want you to listen to the mayor, and then we'll take it on the other side.
The lieutenant governor now says the state's going to pay for a siren along the Guadalupe River. Why is it just happening now in 2025? This area floods a lot.
I was born in Kerrville many years ago, and I've seen a lot of floods. And your report is the first time I've heard that the state is going to help us have sirens up and down the river. The truth is, our community, or the county government, looked into that in 2017. And from what I heard, their grant application was denied. So I wasn't in government at that time, but it sounds like we talked about it. We asked for help, and we were denied before.
It's interesting. In terms of the alert that people were able to get ahead of the storm, there was there were two flood alerts. One was at Friday at 1:14 a.m. The other one was at 4:03 a.m. The Kerr County Sheriff, Larry Lytha, says he was informed about 4 or 5 a.m. Any idea why he wasn't informed of the risk of flooding before that, when there was an alert at 1:14?
You'd have to ask him. I don't know.
Do you think he should have been alerted earlier?
I wasn't alerted I was awakened by a call from the city manager about 5:30 a.m., and I had received 0 alerts beforehand.
Why?
Because they did not come.
Should they have?
If they had come and we had a chance to save all the people we've lost and are missing, absolutely we should have had an alarm. We should have had a warning.
Are you angry about that?
There are many stages to grief, and I'm grieving. There's some anger, of course. I lost 2 friends in this flood, and I would do anything to have warned them that the river was.
You can see the hurt in the brother's eyes, in the brother's tone. I know how that mayor feels. This is my city. This is my area. Dozens of people died in my area under my control because we couldn't get the funding from the state. And we had a county commissioner who simply wouldn't put it in front of the voters to say, let's have a small tax increase to save this river. And I tell you what, the state should pay for it. People from all over the state, all over the country comes to that river. I use that river. I don't mind paying taxes to protect that river and make that river safe. But we have a car of clowns running this state, a clown car with people who have no value for humanity, no value for humans, as they just play with people's lives as long as they're okay. Shame on them. And that's an absolute shame on them. Jacqueline Campisi says, people are upset about finger pointing over the early response to the recent flooding, yet many of those same critics had no problem pointing fingers during and after the California wildfires. You remember that? We had a lot of clowns in our chat actually making silly comments about water. And it was like, my God, why don't we read some? You know, not Uju, actually it was Mayana on the morning show. After hearing one of the silly calls that we had, she went ahead and she said, my God, you know, we respect everybody. We respect absolutely everybody. But my God, read a little bit. And in effect, that is, you know, Jacqueline, I know exactly what you mean, sis. Read a little bit. And that way we can actually have an intelligent conversation. You know, and the thing about it, you don't even have to be right. You just have to come with some sense of wanting to learn. Look, I learn a lot all the time. I mean, I have the best audience out there, bar none. And I really learn a lot from you guys as well. Learning is a good thing, right? Right, Jacqueline? Isn't learning, Jacqueline, don't you think that if you are not learning something every day, maybe there's something wrong with your character? Don't you think so, Jacqueline? Harry Denson said, Egberto, I heard on NPR earlier that a lower judge in Massachusetts was able to block some of the convicted felon President Donald Trump's agenda restriction on Planned Parenthood because Donald Trump's agenda in the destructive bill, which is now unconstitutional. I am not sure. I'm not even sure how that is going to work going forward, but we'll see. Paul Fleming says, if only we knew the person who was in charge of the country at the time who could have done it differently. Politico, that's Trump on Dodge cuts. You know, it is amazing. It is amazing what we're having with Dodge, right? It is so amazing. Anyway, I've got, I want you guys to hear me on this. Change of subject. Tariffs. Donald Trump is expecting to collect billions in tariffs, which he will. All right. He will collect billions in tariffs. But the question is, who is he collecting that money from? He continues to lie to those who would believe him that he is collecting that money from the countries that he's putting a tariff on. Not realizing that, okay, yeah, Eric, it was $300 billion so far. That's what he says. But guess what? That $300 billion is a tax on every single one of us, and especially MAGA, all those people that buy the cheap Chinese stuff in Walmart, etc. That $300 billion came from you. Now, if you didn't have to pay that $300 billion, that would have been $300 billion immediately in the economy, right? So that we could get more economic activity. That's how economic systems work. But instead, Donald Trump is taking $300 billion away from working class Americans and giving it to the Treasury as taxes. Let me tell you the dirty little secret. The dirty little secret is this. If the government picks up taxes from the lower classes, the middle classes, and then goes ahead and use it to offset tax cuts for the wealthy, that creates no real economic activity. The multiplier is likely to be under 1. Okay? But if instead you go ahead and tax the wealthy, whether they have $1 billion or $500 million, it's not going to stop them from buying a burger. It's not going to stop them from having a nice dinner at a restaurant. It's not going to stop them from buying a bike. It's not going to stop them from doing that. So therefore, if you give $1 million, or let's give real kind of money. If you give $5,000 to a rich person, that rich person doesn't even see that $5,000. So it doesn't change their behavior. But if you give that $5,000 to a minimum wage worker, or if you give that $5,000 to a middle class person, they are going to throw that into the economy right away. They're going to go buy socks. They're going to go get a haircut. A woman may go get her nails done. A guy may go ahead and get some power shirts. They will create economic activity. And every activity that they create becomes a multiplier. Because if I buy an extra burger, that means that guy who sells me the burger has to buy more bread, more beef. So he goes to the farmer, and the farmer has to sell more. So that by giving it to the poor and the working class, what you've done is created dynamic activity with a large multiplier, which means once I start spending, I spend more and the other person spends, and it goes around in a big spending spree. When it goes to the rich person, the rich, the reason they like to say give it to the rich person, they will invest it. And by investing it, they'll create more jobs. Hogwash. It has never, if you take a look at the data from Kennedy right up to the present, it has never, ever worked. And there's a scientific and mathematical reason why it doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't. You should still have audio. I can see it going. The reason it doesn't work is because, again, that giving money to a rich person doesn't create additional economic activity. Now, people would say, well, they'll invest the money. Invest in what? I am going to invest in a factory only if I know there's demand. And there's only demand if I give the money to the poor person or the average middle class person who is going to create the demand. Supply side economics is a failure and has always been a failure. And all they have to continuously lie to make you believe it is true. So that is a lesson for today on economic activity. But let's go ahead and play this lie from Donald Trump and our explanation of it. I must admit, today it was very, 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 very difficult watching the cabinet, the presidential cabinet meeting and the presser that came after it. I wrote a tweet where I said, I failed you today because I couldn't stay watching these pressers. I told many of my listeners, I listen to this stuff so that you don't have to. Well, today I couldn't listen to all of it. I just kept on thinking, my God, we have another 3.5 more years of the incessant lies, the incessant hyperboles, the incessant misinformation, the incessant stupidity. And then I turned it off for a few, wrote a tweet, then said, no, I got to get back to listening to it. And I'm glad I did. Let me just say, Donald Trump continues to put out that message. And the one thing Donald Trump is good on is message consistency. He keeps talking about the tariffs, these other countries paying the tariffs, as he screws MAGA and all of us with these increased over the board tariffs. He's simply talking a lot about all this money being collected from these tariffs. It's all the money that you are paying. The American people are paying all this money into the treasury. It's a tax on all of us. He didn't even have to raise the taxes of the wealthy people to start collecting all these nickel and dimes from what you buy at Walmart or Target or Costco or any one of these stores. You are paying for it. So that extra money that he's collecting in tariffs that he's saying is going to reduce the deficit, it isn't, because again, that extra money that he collects from the middle class in taxes mean that's money you're not going to spend to create further economic activity. Sadly, the media continues to allow him to say it and not challenge it immediately. Yeah, later on they say, oh, we are the ones paying the tariffs. But when he's saying it actively, and the clips that are going to go out on Fox News and OAN and Newsmax isn't going to say that. It's just going to show him saying the taxes, we're collecting a lot of money from these countries and these tariffs. And Americans are going to believe it. I want you to listen to this, and then we'll take it on the other side.
big country, and we've been doing very well. The tariffs, as you know, are starting to come in at record levels. Tremendous amounts of money are coming in to our country. We never did that before. We're not used to it. We only have tariffs going out. We only adhere to the rules of other nations who charge us tremendous tariffs because we were led by stupid people or people without any business sense. And I'd like to ask Scott, you could maybe talk a little bit about how well we're doing with regard to the money coming in. And the big money will start coming in on August 1st. I think it was made clear today by the letters that were sent out yesterday and today. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. We will take in about $100 billion in tariff income thus far this year, and that's with the tariffs, the major tariffs not having started till the second quarter. So we could expect that could be well over $300 billion by the end of the year. We don't agree with CBO scoring, but for those who do, the CBO scored tariff income over the next 10 years at $2.8 trillion, which we think is probably low. And under your leadership, we're witnessing.
They gave us no credit during this last little, the great, big, beautiful bill. I always use the word great. I add that to it because it really is what it is like it, actually. And I want to thank all the Republicans that voted for it. And I want to, scold the Democrats because they're voting for tax cuts. They're voting for no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime, and, many, many other things far more important than that. Great health care. And frankly, every Democrat should lose their election because it was purely political vote. They were told not to vote for it. So think of it. We got 218 to 2. And then with the Senate, we had 50 to 3. Democrats didn't vote at all, not one positive vote, with all of the good things in their economic development money.
Now, yes, he spoke about the other countries paying for the tariffs, but he snuck a little other things in there as well. This guy has decimated investments in green energy, renewable energy, etc. Then he talks about investments. This guy has gutted a lot of investments in red states for batteries, red states for anything green, and pushed petroleum. Let's be clear here, people. He is taking us backwards. And if you think for 1 minute that the other countries that are moving ahead are not seeing it, then we're blind. As we keep moving backwards, China is moving forward. If you understand how far China is moving throughout the world and what this current president is doing for us, we're going to always have this big, strong military. We're going to be like Russia, a big military with a lousy economic system. We have a lot of work to do. And we can start this work now. Not 2026, now. There are a lot of off-year elections that we need to win in blowouts. Virginia and others. We need to win those in blowouts. And then 2026, we need to win the Senate and the House. We need to then impeach this president once again for putting the military in the streets and terrorizing American citizens, for selling out the White House financially, for his picadillos into fall money, also known as crypto, and all these other things. We have to take charge. This is shameful. This is shameful. It is absolutely shameful. Now, I just mentioned China there, right? And one of the things that hurts us is that we allow our many in our plutocracy, in our oligarchy, our government to fool us about what China is really all about. If you really it's good to hear you say there is a solution. Yeah, there is a solution, Tony. The solution to look at the risk of doing a plug when I not yet doing a plug. I wrote this book, How to Make America Utopia. A lot of ways to, I definitely don't have all the answers, of course, but that's a good framework right there. And it starts with people. But yeah, there are answers out there. Bread and Circus. I love that name, Bread and Circus. You know what that stands for? But I want you guys to listen to this about, oh, wait, this is 15 minutes? No, I don't think it's 50, this segment. I want you to listen to this. I want you to listen to this because this is an important piece that I found that just kind of came up in my TikTok feed. If it's too long, I'll break it in the long run, but check it out. Let's see. Let's put it on here. And let me put it in the middle, cover my face. Here we go. And check this out.
It's about China, and surely they're doing a lot of things right. But how do you reconcile the fact that to make it work for China, it seems to be based on a high level of repression, environmental destruction, censorship, a certain ideological stubbornness. We've spoken about Hong Kong, the Uyghurs. How do you reconcile that, and why do you think do you think that's tolerable?
Thank you. I'm really glad you asked that question because your question captured very well the Anglo-Saxon media's perception of China. And I would suggest to you very bluntly that it's a distorted perspective of reality. Let's take the first word you use, repression. If the Communist Party of China only relied on repression to stay in power, it would not create the most dynamic economy in the world, right? It is by far the most dynamic economy in the world. It has delivered the fastest growing economy for 30 years. And it has done this by educating the Chinese people to a level and extent that the Chinese people have never been educated ever before. And you say it's repression. You obviously are taking the old Cold War mindset. I was in Moscow in 1976, and I saw repression in Moscow. And when I was in Moscow, the Soviet citizens were not allowed to travel outside the Soviet Union. That's repression. In the year 2019, 139 million Chinese left China freely. Guess what? Zero defectors. 139 million Chinese, right? That's twice the population of the UK. Went back to China. So all your description, when you say environmental degradation, China's climate change policies are far more responsible than those of the United States, which has not once, but twice withdrawn from global environmental protocols. Kyoto Protocol, the Bush administration left 8 years. Paris Accords, Trump administration left 4 years. And you know what? The reason why we're having climate change today is not because of new flows of greenhouse gas emissions from China and India. It's because of what the Western countries have put in the atmosphere since the Western Industrial Revolution. Get the data. The single largest contributor cumulatively, right, is number 1, United States, number 2, Europe, number 3, China. Right? And the West wants China to pay an economic price for the current flows, but the West doesn't want to pay an economic price for what it put in the atmosphere. You want to deprive the Indians of electricity when the United States could just, by the way, if the United States could impose $1 a gallon tax, that would save the world. Cut down gasoline consumption, raise money for investment in green technology. Simple solutions. And by contrast, The largest reforestation program in the world is carried out by China. It has already reforested an area the size of Belgium or bigger, right? So all your descriptions capture the natural distortions of China that you get in the Anglo-Saxon media, which violate the rules of the Enlightenment, which say that you must be rational, calm, and objective, especially in understanding your adversary. And if the Chinese were as stupid and as incompetent as you describe them to be, don't worry about them. But I can assure you, you are now dealing with a far more intelligent and rational actor that doesn't fit any of the Anglo-Saxon categories that you applied to them. Please forgive my bluntness.
You said a lot of wonderful.
Now, that came across my feed recently. And what it did to me was scared me. Because I knew all of that information. In fact, we've shown the charts that showed where all the carbon dioxide in the gases, the warming gases, carbon dioxide came from in the atmosphere. Which country put it there? I also knew about the way that the education level in the Chinese, because we watched the OECD, compared the Chinese educational system with the OECD, etc., and we are far down in education level compared to the Chinese. Remember, the Chinese middle class is larger than our entire country, population of our entire country. Just their middle class is larger than our entire country. And the other thing that I've done is I've been to China a couple of times, right? And what we talk about China here is nothing like the China you see in China. You go to Shanghai or you go to Beijing and you go to the apartment complexes, apartment row over and over, and you go into these places and it's like, are we talking about what America likes to demean? But you have to realize the problem here is that we are an extractive society. Look, I'm not defending communism or China or anything like that. They do have, if you want to do your own thing, do your own thing. Just stay out of politics in China and you'll be fine, right? But over here, you can't really even do your own thing. People, you have to be invited to the game. In capitalism, you have to be invited. I've invented several things, and I'm telling you, my brothers and sisters, to really, if everybody said, "Look, Bill Gates did this, and he became a successful stuff with the power of what he did," and the same with Jeff Bezos. And do you really believe that? Do you really believe that Jeff Bezos, just because he had a great idea on books, is what made him really wealthy? Or was he chosen with investments to really make it? Same with Dell Computers. Dell is a bit young. I remember going to PCs Limited in Austin and talking to Michael Dell when I used to build computers, and I used to buy my hardware from PCs Limited, which was owned by Michael Dell and his compatriot. And he went to the University of Texas like I did. He was a few years behind me. And I used to go buy the computers from Dell. And we would talk. I remember when realizing that it never used to be called Dell Computers. It was called something else before. I was like, I didn't know this was Michael Dell that owned this stuff. It's amazing. Hey, Ray Brackens, how you doing, brother?
Hey, brother, I know you about to wrap it up real quick. I just wanted to say, thank you for putting perspective on the fact of, these greedy sons of Salem witches. I'm going to try to be nice about it. But, like you said, you could give everybody $1 million, but hell, it don't even have to be $1 million. I say personally, I can attest to the fact, if you put $5,000 in my pocket today, that would change my mood and that would change my entire life situation, because I would go out and get stuff done that I've been putting off because I'm always anxious that I don't have the money, while these greedy suckers is always basically just pocketing the money or putting it in some offshore account or investing it. So why? It can make more money. They basically are keeping, not only do they keep the people enslaved, but they also keep the money enslaved, if you think about it.
No, and here's the thing. The reason I changed up and started talking about this, because it's important, and it's important what you said. If we put money in your pocket, you will invest into doing something constructive with it to multiply it. These, and the reason I don't have any envy against Bezos or any of these billionaires. The only thing that I want Americans to understand is all the Americans that are listening to me right now. Every single one of us are Americans. And sometimes we feel inferior that there can be a Michael Dell or all these guys, and we feel like we can never be them, and we subserve them, right? We don't understand that in our economic system, you have to be invited to the game. It doesn't matter how smart you are. I don't know if you remember, and I'm going to go over about 2 minutes today. I don't know if you remember this, guys. If you go to a church today, any church, you see great singers in these churches. And some of these people would have liked to have a record they'll never get one because they're not chosen. There are a lot of singers out there better than the stars that were chosen by the big record companies. But you have to be chosen. When the internet came out, the internet created a playing field that if it stayed the way it was supposed to stay, people would immediately go up the ladder based on their true capabilities. But then the internet got into throttling and controlled by the plutocracy, and that all came crashing down. I'm going to do a story on that another time, but I got to go. Ray, give me a quick closer, 10 seconds.
Look, y'all, if you don't hear nothing else, just know this. We all got to play this game of life, but we do have a democracy where we get to choose the referees.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. Now, thank you, man. We'll talk tomorrow. Now, here's the thing, guys. Sometimes I kind of get upset at the system because, and sometimes it seems like I get upset at some of the folks out there, and that's not the idea. I'm going a couple of minutes over today. What gets me is I feel the value in all of you that are listening to me right now. Okay? I know based on comments that you guys make, based on calls that I get, how smart all of you are. And then I look at the people who control the country. I look at the people who become the millionaires and billionaires. And it irks me because I know that they have nothing that you don't have, that they were just invited into the game. I know that. And trying to explain that to folks as far as the way capitalism works is you have to be invited into the game to play, and then you can play that game. Thank you, Robert Davenport. He says, Project Democracy, vote, act, communicate. Robert Davenport, I haven't heard from you in a while. Thank you for that super chat. So, folks, my thing here is this. I believe in people. I genuinely believe in people. And it irks me that too many of us cede our prosperity, cede our power to those who are completely and entirely undeserving because they haven't earned it. They used an economic system, an economic model to get where it's at. An engineer doesn't care about learning all that modal. A doctor doesn't care about learning all that modal in general, in the aggregate. A secretary doesn't care about that modal. The janitor doesn't care about that. But you have those who only live by profiting on the backs of others. And those are the things that I want to bring to the forefront. And I hope that you're taking this with the spirit that I'm trying to put this out on. And the reason why is sometimes I get excited, I know, but it's really because I care. And yes, Eric, I did choose to leave the game. Yes, I did. And the reason I did is that I have a daughter that I care for, that I really want to create to be a part of creating a better society for her. But yeah, I did leave the game. All right, folks, please support the show however you can. The way to support the show is to go ahead and become a paid subscriber of our newsletter, Egberto Off the Record. We work very hard. Take a look at all that we do. I guarantee you that we learn together. You'll learn a lot as well from what we do. Please become a paid subscriber. It's the only thing that's going to allow us to keep doing. Well, allow me right now. It's me alone. Allow me to continue doing this. It's a huge investment in time. It's a huge investment in just about life. So I ask you to go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, and become a paid subscriber. It's inexpensive. It's like getting me a coffee. And I know if you guys met me on the outside, none of you would have a problem saying, let me get you a coffee. You see me a few times, let me get you a coffee. I ask you to subscribe as if you are getting me a cup of coffee to what we're doing here. You are making an investment in one particular thing here that is out there doing the work. And it's not just behind the camera, it's not just behind the mic. As some of our members right here in the chat, I'm out there in the field as well. I'll be off in New Orleans to go to the Netroots convention. I'm going to be putting some stuff out on that pretty soon, where I'll be interviewing all the big activists around the country and politicians, etc. But please support us best you can. Support us best you can. Go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter and become a paid subscriber. Then you'll be a part of the PDR posse, allowing us to get the work done. Thank you so kindly. Love you all. Trust you all. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.